Have you ever heard the saying, you gotta roll up your sleeves and go in after them? How about, you're gonna need dynamite to get them out of there? Well, more than likely, they were talking about heavy cover. And when it comes to that type of habitat, largemouth bass are the name of the game. The fact is, very few species get up into the slop like big old bucket mouths. Sure, every once in a while you'll catch a rogue northern pike or smallie in the slop. But on the average, largemouth bass and heavy cover go together like peanut butter and jelly. But finding them in the slop is only half the battle. Now comes the tricky part. You gotta get a bait right in front of them and still get them out after they're hooked. This is no playground for the timid angler. Today, on The Edge, James Lindner and Jeremy Smith lace up their shoes extra tight to go toe-to-toe with heavy cover bass, keying in on one of the few fish that actually make their living room up in one of the knottiest, gnarliest vegetations you can find. It's bound to be a great show as James and Jeremy get up close and personal with heavy cover bass.
That's a big head. Look at that one, Jer. It's a real sporty animal there. Look at that guy.
Closed captioning is provided by Smooth Moves, adjustable boat seat suspensions for a smoother ride.
There we go.
There you go. Wow.
Nice. There we go. That is a good start to the morning. How do you like that hog? Oh, man. In my opinion, the pinnacle of largemouth bass fishing is busting out meat sticks.
Oh, I just had another one, Jer.
And cracking jumbo bass like that in heavy cover. Today, Jim Lindner and I are gonna look at some of the strategies for finding largemouth bass in some of their favorite habitat. That's heavy cover, and we're gonna share with you some of the riggings that we use to pull fish like this out of cover like that. There's a lot of different riggings available today to be able to target big largemouth and heavy cover like this. And one of the most innovative and I think efficient ways that I've seen so far to fish bass in this heavy cover is a rig like this. This is called a Tokyo rig from BMC. So check this out. It's got this little wire shaft on it. And you can see I've got a couple little tungsten weights here. And what the idea is, it's a weight forward system. So when that goes into the water like that, you can see the weight leads the bait through the heavy cover, and it goes through there extremely well. And the reason I'm using two weights instead of one in this particular case is there's a lot of kind of gross vegetation on the bottom. So I want one of the sinkers to penetrate and I want the other to be pointed on the end to come back up through the cover. So with this system, we can penetrate just about anything you can imagine, and it also keeps the bait just slightly up off the bottom. Oh, Jimmy's got a big monster on. Whoa, that's a big fish, man.
Wow. Come here, buddy. Boy, it's beautiful.
Boy, the way it moved water, I thought you had a monster.
Come here, buddy. You know, we live up in the North Country, and a lot of our lakes, we have really big weed beds, and these weed beds are interesting in the fact that, because in some bodies of water, they grow from as deep as 25 foot of water to really shallow water cover like we're fishing right now. But let's get her back in the water. Hey, buddy. There we go. One of the biggest things is to catch fish out of weeds is to first off to figure out what depth contour they are in the weeds. We just got in this lake and we started fishing shallow, but you know, weeds in this particular lake grow out to 8 or 10 foot of water, but in a lot of the lakes that we fish in the North Country, they go really, really deep. So the key is getting on the right depth contour, which weed depth you're fishing.
One thing's for sure, largemouth bass and weeds go hand in hand. Now, depending on the body of water you're fishing, there could be all different types of weeds in there. There might be wild rice and lily pads like we're fishing here. In deeper water, you might have some of the cabbage species growing in that, say, 8 to 10 foot range. And then in the deeper stuff, you might run into milfoil, coontail, or even Cara, an algae, the sandgrass people often call it, that largemouth can use as well. But one thing when you hit a body of water, it's worth looking at different types of weeds, because often bass can have a preference for a specific type of plant, and that's where you'll find them. So anytime you hit the water, be sure to check different spots with different types of weeds, and chances are if you sample through most of them, you'll find some fish.
You know, what's exactly what you're saying, Jer. You know, it's so interesting that you can go to a given body of water, and a lot of times the fish can be really keyed in on a specific type of plant. And these lakes here, we'll be fishing a little bit later here. It'll be like deeper coontail mats that'll be out in, you know, 6 to 8 foot of water. But the thing is, at any one given point in time, these fish are moving back and forth in these weed beds, and they're finding the right weed for that time is key.
Right now it's that late summer time frame, late August, where you can have, the mornings are starting to get really cool, and the days can of course still be in the 80s. And this is a time frame when basically everything's in play. There could be fish in, you know, 15 feet of water. There can be fish in the slop. So one thing I will say though, however, is when you've got these dark water lakes like we've got right now, a lot of times the biggest bass you'll find in the lake are going to be in the heaviest cover, and they're often very shallow. There's one.
There you go. Ooh. Ooh, there's one. Oh. Imagine that. It was the same thing, boy. He just launched it. When fish grabbed it and he started swimming sideways, that's where that high-speed reel to catch up to him. I'm not kidding you. The fish, before I got him, that fish had probably swam 5 feet before I set the hook on the fish. I mean, look at that. He just launched the bait, too.
This segment has been brought to you by Donlinger Automotive, and they want to encourage you to drive safe on the road and on the water.
What lies beneath can no longer hide. New Mega Imaging Plus uses high-frequency sonar to show you fish and structure up to 200 feet below your boat and 200 feet out to either side. No more secrets, no more guesswork, just a clearer picture of the world below, down to a fish's species and direction. Because more detail means more of this. Only from Humminbird.
For the bass that thinks it's a bulldog. For the walleye that thinks it's a freight train. For the tuna that thinks it's a torpedo. For the tarpon that thinks it's a tarpon. You need the mono that thinks it's a braid. Suffix Advance. New advanced mono with HMPE braid molecules for strength, abrasion resistance, and low stretch. Suffix Advance. The mono that thinks it's a braid.
Having spent a lifetime fishing all over North America, I know a lot about water, wind, and waves. Water can be an inviting place, and yet at the same time, it can also be very unforgiving. With a simple push of a button, this fully adjustable Smooth Moves air suspension is designed to tame the waves and give you a smooth and comfortable ride no matter what conditions you face. Tame the water, wind, and waves with Smooth Moves.
This segment is brought to you by Blackfish Outdoor Apparel, because you can't choose the weather.
So this is what the Tokyo rig looks like out of the package. It's got a closed ring on the eye of the hook, a little barrel swivel, and then this wire shaft with half a swivel on it. So what the idea is, you can use just a regular flipping weight, you know, and of course just you choose weight based on how dense the cover is and how deep you're fishing. So what I'll do is I'm going to start out this little 3/8 VMC flipping weight, 3/8 of an ounce. I'll slide that one in, and just for the heck of it, because this water's so dirty, I'm going to put a glass bead, put a little rattle in between the two of them, and then I'll just take this second one and I'll drop it in the opposite direction. So now you can see that whether the bait's coming up through the cover, the weight is in the way that it won't catch cover, and when it's penetrating through the cover, it's the same way. And then I've just, that little glass, you don't have to do that, but that little glass bead makes a nice little little noise, and I'll just take a pliers like this, and I'm just gonna make a little bend in that wire, and that'll keep the weights from popping off.
You know, that Tokyo rig is a fabulous hooking rig. The thing is with that lead separated from the hook, it's sort of interesting. You have to get used to it. When you look at it, it looks a little bit sort of clunky and a little odd, but boy, I fished it through a lot of different types of cover, from bulrushes, pads, deep milfoil, coontail mats, and it's a great bait to fish that type of cover, no question about that.
There you go. That was cool. I saw that. Big one? Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
Jumped him.
gosh. Boy, did he hit it. Go moving fast.
Here we go. That's
Got
a nice
him.
one.
Ooh, there's a real one.
Woo! How do you like that? Man, that is a good hooking bait. Stuck him. Stuck it to him. Look at that. What a quality fish, man. That's one thing. It seems like when you get in these lakes like this, looking for new largemouth lakes, one of the things I always look for is finding that dirty water. Now, it might not be dirty all the time. Like if you look at the Secchi reading, the water clarity reading, you might see that there's data from it being 10 feet clear and data from it being 2 or 3 feet clear. And when you get that, there's a lot of runoff, and that nutrient loading in these lakes is just dynamite for producing big buckets. Get this back, because I think there's a school of them here. And he toasted my big fighting frog. I love fishing big profile baits. This is a big bite Rojas fighting frog, a 5-inch. I like a darker color, and I like a big profile. This is really dirty water, thick cover. I just want something the fish can find really easily. And a big dark bait like that. The darker baits seem to contrast really well in that green water. It's easy for fish to find them.
In natural lakes, weeds provide the bulk of bass habitat. But that doesn't mean that all weed beds are equal and that bass are likely to be just anywhere. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In principle, areas with more weeds offer more habitat to attract and hold more bass. Fast-dropping areas with limited area for weeds to grow may develop narrow bands of sparse weed growth, but they are seldom as good as sloping areas with conducive bottom content at the right depth for rooted weed growth to develop. Look on your lake map for expansive flats that are about 5 to 15 feet in depth, and you'll likely find good areas supporting the most weeds in the lake. Once you find good weed areas, look for points, turns, corners, slots, holes, and other irregularities in and along the weeds that might congregate active bass into prime feeding locations. Complex weed beds with many different forms of habitat and edges tend to attract and hold the most bass throughout the year. Weed beds that have inside and outside edges offer more places for active bass to feed. If the weed flats also have rock piles or open holes within them, bass have additional feeding options. Toss in a few hard bottom areas extending off the deep outer edge of the weed bed, and bass have a smorgasbord of feeding locations.
Ooh, there's a big one.
Help your marine engine run smoother and last longer with Marine Pro from the makers of Seafoam Motor Treatment. Marine Pro is specially formulated for all types of gasoline marine engines. Marine Pro works to clean fuel passageways, cleans and lubricates critical upper engine areas, protects from the harmful effects of bad fuel and corrosion, and stabilizes fuel up to 2 years. Just pour it in. Fast starts and smooth running power have never been this easy. Marine Pro is available now at Fleet Farm.
For 70 years, you've known us for our high-performance rods. Now, it's time to meet our machinery. 32 pairs of hands. Touch, craft, and test each St. Croix rod. Overkill? Not with our reputation on the line. St. Croix. the best rods on earth.
Hey, you just got to visit Sunset Country.
I got one!
The Edge is presented by these and other fine sponsors.
Oh, there's a big one. Oh, that's a good one there. Here. Oh, come here, buddy.
Oh yeah,
There you
big
go.
bass, sweet.
Come here, buddy. Wow.
That's a
Boy,
horse.
he's a real fatso.
Yeah.
Look at that
Look how
one.
fat that thing is. It's huge.
God. Come here, buddy. Come here. Ooh, look at that. Wow. That's a good one. Look at that thing. Boy, he just crunched on it.
I think you just got to get it close to him.
Beautiful fish. Look at that thing. Huh. Boy. Look at that water.
So when it comes to this style of fishing, rod length is a big deal. And the shorter the rod is, the more accurate you are with casting. And the longer rod, you have less accuracy. But I carry rods in the boat when I'm doing this heavy cover fishing, anywhere from a 7-1, that's when I want to be real specific with my targets, all the way up to rods that are almost 9 feet in length. And the reason I choose different length rods often has to do with depth. So for example, if we were fishing really heavy mats that are in say 10 feet of water, 12, 15 feet of water, I like a longer rod for that. A lot of times the openings are bigger. I don't have to be as specific, but with that longer rod, I can keep the line angle a lot more vertical than I can with a shorter rod, and I can fish further away from the boat, maintaining that rod angle. The problem you'll run into when you're fishing this heavy cover, making longer casts, is when that angle gets to be so, you're getting hung up all the time. So keeping it as up and down as you can is really, really important. When it comes to reels, I'm all about fast reels. I love fishing 7-3, 8-1. I never fish slower stuff in here because you're fishing a lot of slack line. The bait hits the bottom, you're popping it up, and a lot of times their fish are running at you. So you want that really fast reel, and you're making a lot of casts. So getting the line in improves with efficiency. And lastly, on the reel side of things, we're running the tension pretty darn low on these. This one that I'm fishing with happens to be a Zillion HD. It's got a big giant handle on it. Another great reel choice for this is the Tatula TW-SV. It's got the super free versatile spool. You can cast into the stuff, hit weeds, and the thing doesn't backlash. So having tools like that, the right rod and reel, makes a huge difference in how many bass you're gonna catch.
You know, as Jared was saying, the importance of casting and having the right equipment. The other part of the equation is line. Most of the time, when we're fishing emergent vegetation like this, we're using performance braid, anywhere from 30 to 50 pound tests. The fish don't care if they see the line. They're sitting in a lot of, just such heavy cover. The line doesn't make any difference. But in deeper water situations, and a lot of times we'll also use heavy fluorocarbon, like a Sufix Invisalign, anywhere from 17 to as heavy as 25 pound test in more deeper, clear water situations. But when you get in this really thick stuff like this, braid is the way to go, no question about it, because you hook the fish and you got to rip them out of it in a lot of cases.
There we go.
Oh, there you go, Jared. Oh.
The way he moved water in the weeds, I really thought this was it.
Yeah.
The new Minnesota State record was on the line. It's just a nice one. You gotta have that heavy cover, but this is the deal. Like Jim had made, I don't know how many casts. I mean, we're fishing slow, and you'd think, oh, the guy in the front of the boat's just totally gonna dominate the scene, but there's so many different targets. The slower you fish, there's just watch where the other guy's casting. If you're in the back, watch where he's casting, because 2 feet, a foot from where he just cast, there could be a fish sitting there that didn't see it because that cover is so darn thick. And this system, I'm telling you what, man, I love fishing bass in heavy cover in this Tokyo rig deal. This is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in bass fishing or fishing in general, how well this thing goes through cover. It's just amazing, and it's not getting all that crud on the bait because it's keeping it up off the bottom a little bit. This is just an unreal crazy rig. It hooks good and it fishes so clean.
When you initially look at that rig, it really looks sort of funky. But after you start as soon as you start fishing it, you'll see it right away. It's unbelievable how the thing fishes through a lot of different type of cover. Not only that, the biggest thing is the way it hooks with that weight away from the hook itself. It really hooks fish really well.
At Mercury, we invested more than 844,419 hours of engineering manpower, so you can enjoy hours and hours of untapped horsepower. So buckle up and hold on tight. Introducing the all-new V6 Mercury Pro XS. Light, quick, efficient. Mercury, go boldly.
True to Lund's tradition of quality, craftsmanship, and innovation, Lund is reintroducing the 1650 Rebel XL at a special price. With the rugged stability of Lund's double-plated IPS hull and features like an aerated live well, rod lockers, Lund's Sport Track mounting system, and even includes a travel cover. The Lund 1650 Rebel XL. Exceptional quality at an incredible price. To find your nearest dealer or to get a free catalog, visit lundboats.com.
From it's gonna be a snowy day season to this baby can handle it season, Fleet Farm has everything you need because right now, it's make sure I've got traction season. Let's get this house toasty season. Break out the shovel again season. Time to bundle up season. And of course, did someone say fish fry season? Fleet Farm is built for every season. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
You can't choose the weather, but you can choose to dress for it. Introducing Blackfish Performance Rain Gear. Utilizing patented eVent technology, this advanced membrane allows body heat and vapors to escape while offering 100% waterproof protection with an exceptional combination of waterproof and breathability ratings. Blackfish Rain Gear keeps you dry all day. Whether on the tournament trail or chasing weekend walleyes, choose Blackfish because you can't choose the weather.
The Edge is presented by these and other fine sponsors.
You know, one really important thing about fishing weeds like this is boat speed. And what I mean by that is really dependent on the attitude of the fish. Sometimes if the fish are really active, we can move along at, at a pretty good clip, hit the bottom, just, dependent on the weed cover and the depth of water we're fishing, and they'll hit it right away. Today, the fish have been pretty inactive, so I've been really sort of moving along really, really slow, and we have to almost let the bait stew a little bit for a while before the fish hits the bait. The other thing that you can use, mapping programs, we use this particularly a lot when you get on uniform depths flats. So you get on big expansive flats of cabbage and coontail, milfoil, and these are big football field areas. And what we'll do is use the map to more or less like mow the lawn, and you go back and forth so you can logically comb over that area. A lot of times it's sort of interesting, you get in big flats like that, and it's a big area and it seems somewhat the same, but the fish will be concentrated in certain areas. And now a lot of times when you're fishing that way, you're dropping coordinates in specific clumps of weeds within a flat. And the odd thing is, you look at it and it seems like it's all the same, but it's not at this time because a lot of times the fish will be concentrated in a certain couple of mats within a big weed flat. I think you gotta make a lot of casts to get it by them. We're fishing probably by a lot of fish,
Yeah.
There's one. Oh, Whoa.
What do we got
That's
here?
a real one there, man.
Holy
Wow,
cow,
wow,
nice
look at
fish.
that.
Wow.
See, that's what I mean when you need the right rod, reel, and line.
No
The
kidding,
line is
hold
really
on,
key.
man.
We brought
That's a big
back
fish,
some of
too.
his home. Look at that. You know, that's what this braid, you know, it cuts right through the weeds in a lot of cases. Come here, buddy, we'll get that out of there. Oh, boy, that's a big head. Look at that one, Jer.
That's a sweet fish, man.
A real sporty animal there. Look at that guy. Beautiful fish. But no question about it, throughout the good portion of the year in these types of lakes, the biggest bass live in the heaviest cover. No question about it.
Quick article I read in the newspaper the other day. Headline, social media reacts to removal of 10 Commandments plaque. It's been on a Minnesota courthouse since the building opened in 1958. That's the headline to the newspaper. Goes on to say they received a letter from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and which is made up, now catch this, which is made up of 30,000 members across the country. 600 are Minnesota members, and our local chapters of Lake Superior Freethinkers, I love the word freethinkers, and Grand Rapids Atheists and Freethinkers. By the way, I am a free thinker. We just don't free think the same way. I'm sure of that. But what gets my attention, today you're constantly seeing attacks about people being offended by the 10 Commandments. In God we trust, I want it out of here. You see people attacking God's word everywhere. And I look at these numbers, here's the thing that gets to me. 30,000 members, 600 people in Minnesota. What do we got? Maybe we're pushing 6 million people that live in the state of Minnesota. And I got 600 people that cause this kind of problem because they're offended? What about me being offended by why? Because they're offended of something that I believe in and follow every single day of my life. This is a bunch of baloney and I'm sick and tired of it. How can so few people have that kind of impact? I'd love to see these laws go up for a vote, federal and at state levels, and see how many of us really are offended. How many of us believe in the 10 Commandments? How many of us want to follow them? We believe it's a better world to live in. When I look at this stuff and I look at the news at night and follow it in the paper when I come home at night and I see the insanity that's going on in the world and people are scratching their head, you know what that is? It's a small, small glimpse of what a world without God looks like. And that's just the beginning. We can't let this insanity keep going. Let's do something about it. Don't roll over. I got to calm down right now, Nick. Yeah. Hey, from all of us here at The Edge, you have a good, safe fishing season. We'll see you on the water. For me and my house, the 10 Commandments are a way of life and something I'm going to live by because the world will be a better place because of it. From all of us here at The Edge, you have a good, safe fishing season. We'll see you on the water. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching. And if you really like what you see, we got a whole lot more. So check us out at any one of these online outlets. You know, in fishing, there are good days and there are great days. Time is just a wink from the Almighty. We plan, target, rig, and play the game like everyone else.